Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video. Now today's video is specifically aimed towards tennis parents, so if you're one of them, stay tuned. However, if you're a tennis coach, you might find this useful as well for working with your players or with the parents of your players. Because today I'm going to be talking about the car journey home from a match or a tournament with a junior player, as this journey home can often make or break a player's experience of a match, and longer term can help them to love competition or to hate it. So, let's talk about it. Welcome back. Now before we get into the nuts and bolts of this video, I want you to understand that this video is not aimed to tell you how to parent your kids. I'm not a parent myself, so I'm in no means in any position to tell you how to do that. But I have had tons of experience as a player and as a coach, which may help you when it comes to helping your children to get even more out of their tennis. Every child is different and responds to different things in different ways. And only you as parents know how best your children work. So some of these tips may help you with your children, but others may not. This video is purely here from my experiences, but hopefully some of the things may help you. I've been playing competitively at a pretty high level since the age of 10, and I've actually got 4 younger brothers who I've gone through it with as well. One of which was national champion at a young age, but sadly hung his rackets up a couple of years later. I sat in the back of a car for hundreds of journeys after tennis matches for myself and with my brothers, so I've seen some really good conversations, but also some really bad ones too. As well as that, I've been coaching junior players for around 15 years, working with them from beginner level all the way through to international standard, and working very closely with their families. Again, I've seen some really good examples of how the player, coach and parent relationship can work, but also some bad ones. The most important thing is that everybody is on the same page, so communication is key. Even at a very young age for junior players, it's important to allow them to be open. As parents and as coaches, we need to know how a player is feeling, whether they're feeling nervous, whether they're feeling tired. If we know these things, we can help them to get more out of their tennis, and it can also help us to speak to them in the right way. The first thing to understand about the car journey home from a match is it's probably a player's first opportunity to express their feelings. They may not do it at the match venue as there'll be people around, but when they get into the car with their family, they'll hopefully feel more at ease and ready to open up. So my first piece of advice in this situation is to try to let them speak first. What you don't want to do is tell them what you thought straight away. Whether they've won their match or lost their match, had a good match or a bad match, they're going to be feeling lots of emotions. Give them time to feel these emotions and to talk them through. This is not only going to help them to decompress, but it's also going to help you to understand what they're really feeling. I'm really upset. So is this guy. Because only 23% of you guys actually subscribe to the channel. So do us a huge favour and hit that button below. Once they've started to open up, you can start to ask a couple of questions here and there, but keep them fairly open. Encourage them to speak as much as possible, but try your best not to give them feedback unless they ask for it. What I would say though, is if they've lost a match or had a really bad match, make sure that you give them a smile. A smile alone will be enough to reassure them that you're not mad at them and that everything's okay. Children pick up so much from body language, so give them a smile and allow them to open up. The second thing that I would say is really important is to try to avoid asking the score. Now, you may have been there at the tournament with them, or you may have not. Even if you know the score, try not to mention it. As a coach, if I've been at the tournament with a player, or they come back onto court with me after being at a tournament, I never ask them the score. Now, naturally, children might want to tell me the score, that's fine, but it needs to come from them rather than me. The reason being is that I want my players to value their performance higher than the result of the match. As a parent or as a coach, as soon as you ask a player the score, they instantly feel that it has high importance. The problem with this is if players start thinking about the score being the most important part of their game, they're going to fixate on it. And when your focus is on the result, it can only go one of two ways. The player will win and they'll feel happy, the player will lose and they'll feel upset. I've seen lots of examples of players and parents having a results-orientated mindset. What this does over a period of time is the player finds a way to win. Now, you might look at this thinking that that's great. And yes, finding a way to win is important. However, at a young junior level, when players haven't fully developed technically and physically, the easiest way to win is just by getting the ball back in play. They'll try to keep the ball in for long rallies, and yes, they might win matches and they might win tournaments at a young age. However, in the long run, they're not going to be developing the right skills to help them in their adulthood. When it comes to your late teens and your adulthood, when you're fully developed, rallies become much shorter, and an aggressive game is very important. Being technically sound and having big weapons in your game is vital for making it at the top level. What I've seen with players that have this results mindset is they become super defensive. And although they win lots of medals in their young junior days, they find it very tough as they get older playing against bigger and stronger players. Rather than talking about the score, we want to talk about the performance in the match. Once your child or the player has spoken about what they're feeling and you start to engage in conversation, what you can ask are questions based around their performance. Keep these questions open again, let them speak. It might be something like, how did you feel your serve went today? What was the strongest part of your game? The next area I want to talk about is trying to avoid any comparisons with other players. Avoid comparing your child's score to somebody else's score against the same opponent. Avoid comparing ratings and rankings. All of these things can start to develop expectations and sometimes fear over playing a certain player. An expectation could be that their next opponent has a really high ranking, so they've got no chance of winning. On the flip side of this, they could go into a match feeling that their opponent's going to be super easy to beat, and this is even more dangerous. So try to avoid any comparisons. At the end of the day, every player is on a different trajectory. There might be a player that's the same age as your child doing much better at the moment. However, everybody improves at different rates and at different stages. Rather than focusing on that other player, focusing on your own game is going to help you far more with that progress. Now, this last one that I'm going to speak about is a newer one for me, and it's something that I've been really working on with my players when I talk to them, and it's praising hard work over skills. An example of this is your child or your player may say that their opponent had a really quick serve. Now, rather than talking about the serve specifically, talk about how hard that player must have worked to develop that serve. The same goes for in a match if your child hit a really good winning forehand on the run. Rather than talking about the skill that took, talk about the effort and determination it took to get to that shot. By praising hard work rather than skills, you're going to be giving your child the message that the process is more important than the result. These small messages can go a long way in your child's long-term development. If they start to understand that the performance is more important than their results, they're going to start to develop a really good growth mindset, which of course is what's ideal for long-term development. I know it's super hard, but if your player or child wins a match, try to avoid praising the win itself. Praise what happened within the win. How hard they worked, how they never gave up, how focused they were, how well they executed their game plan or their tactics. These things make a player, not the win itself. So in summary, try to wait for the player to speak first. Let them express their emotions and their feelings before you start to engage more in that conversation. When you do engage in that conversation, try to keep questions open and avoid talking about the score or the result. Talk more about what happened within the match and praise hard work over skills. Let me know in the comments below if you have anything to add to this or if you disagree with anything that I said. As I always say, I'm learning along the way and I'm always trying to make myself a better coach. And by understanding the best conversations to have with players, it's not only going to help me with my coaching, but it's also going to help me when I'm talking to other parents to help them to help their children. Anyway, thanks as always for watching. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing to the channel and hit that like button. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Take care.